everybody. My name's Alexandra Zadak. With This is Improv, and welcome to another episode of Talk About It Tuesday, where we talk all things the arts and things involving the arts in life. I have a very, very special guest with me today, the wonderful, the amazing, the all glorious Bill Adams.
Wow, what an introduction, Baby Z. It is so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on here. So Bill was one of my professors in college at Nova Southeastern University. So I've learned a lot from him and a lot from my time at Nova. So it makes me really happy to come and bring him on the show today and to showcase him. So Bill, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself so they get to know you just as well as I do?
Well, I will, but I first want to talk to Alexandra and Angelica Zadak, whom I've known now for many, many years. I'm not sure I ever had either one of you in class, and it doesn't make any difference. You all were always around, and you have awesome, awesome parents. We were talking about you two at breakfast today, thinking, they're really good girls. And then I said, they got really good parents. And G was like, yeah, they do. So again, thank you for having me here to talk today. I am officially the coordinator of performing arts at Nova Southeastern University, and I've been at Nova for like 14 years. I have the great honor and privilege of being mostly in charge of musical theater there, and I'm a specialist. I specialize in voice. If you can believe it, my background is I've got more performance experience in opera than anything else. How bizarre is that? Someone from a pig farm in Kentucky, and I've done a lot of opera. How strange. So that's what I bring to the table every day at Nova. I teach voice and movement. I teach a musical theater class. I teach private voice lessons. Right now, I'm directing in today's terminology, the musical theater project. We wanted to do something musically, and we couldn't really do a full production. So that's what we're working on right now. And it's so bizarre these days with people on Zoom in the
Yes.
class. And I will say though, students I think really want to be back in the room. I'm really sensing, and I know that I do. And that's a strange time with things and the virus really kind of heating up. But the vaccine's coming in, things are getting better. So we're excited to get back in the room and get back
Yeah.
to real theater.
Right. Definitely. No, yeah. It's so crazy. And Joke and I were saying when we started doing the YouTube videos, teaching the games, we're so used to performing and then hearing someone say something or do something from the audience, and we haven't had that. So turning it into sketch format has been a little bit easier, but it's just so strange not being on a basically a platform and then people right in front of you.
Well, we noticed that with the energy with the classes, and you came and helped us with the improv workshop for our healthcare theater class,
Mhm.
which is terrific. And then what was the dynamic, the energy that we get from the people in the room, whether you're a teacher or whether you're a performer or an improver, it doesn't make any difference. This exchange of energy makes it all so much more fluid. And
Yeah.
we're so used to it, and all of us who are teachers are struggling to try to find the energy.
Mhm.
Um, but it's coming back. It's
It
coming
is.
back.
It
It's coming.
is. Yeah, I found that there's new energy virtually that's starting to peek its way through, especially with some of our students. We're just like, oh, they have new ideas. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting the brain flowing and the
Yes,
body moving and
yes. And it's again, being a teacher for so long, learning is painful, and we're
yeah.
learning as we go. And you're right. There are some really exciting things happen that are going to stay with us, and that's a good thing. One of the big things, of course, in theater that I've talked about with some of my colleagues all over the country is accessibility. We
Yeah.
want to keep some element of this Zoom thing happening because more people can come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really great. I'm in a group called the Voicing, Acting, and Singing with Archetypes, and we have regular meetings, and there are people from Wales and Seattle and Cape Cod and all over the country, and
Wow.
it's been a great opportunity for us to get together and to continue to work and to get our
Yeah.
technique working and learn from each other. And it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's even a lot more people are able to do table readings with people who either friends that are in other countries or other time zones because they're like, oh, well, I was imagining them in this role. Now they can be in this role. Now I can have someone who's 3 hours ahead of me in my show.
It is great. And where it all will end doesn't make any difference because we're all going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you say to yourself, wow, music and the arts, like when did you get that bug of I need to do this?
Well, I noticed when you asked the question to my colleague Stefan Panetta, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to be prepared for that. I remember one specific moment. I started in piano lessons and in community theater when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And my mom is a college professor, and so we were around the arts my whole life. Thank goodness, it was great. But I started really, really early with piano and with theater. But I remember one specific moment. I was freshman in high school, and we were auditioning for solos, and the teacher gave me the opportunity, and I let two or three people go, and then I took my turn, and I remember that moment, which I was like, oh, I want to do this. And I got the solo, and then kind of the rest is history because I was kind of sunk because I was going to do it forever. And I tried to get out of it because when I was in college, I started in music at Indiana University, and then I was like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I hate music theory, and music theory is hard. It was not performing. And so I switched to business, and then I switched to English literature. I just kept changing my mind, but everything kept leading me back to music.
Wow.
So again, the rest is history. I just
Yeah.
stuck with it now, and it's great. It's what's so wonderful to get to do it every day and to work with young people. That is the best part.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I find, I'm not musically inclined, especially when it comes to instruments or music theory, which is why I did not take those classes.
Hey, I want to ask you about this. This was, I don't know how long ago, there was a song that somebody wrote in your family or something, and you were going to sing it for your grandmother or something like that.
Oh, yeah, so I have an oddly artistic family. It's like built of doctors and artists. And like that's all from my mom's side. So it was I think it was my great grandmother wrote a song that was played on jazz radio years ago called El Pájaro Azul.
Right.
So yeah, that's one that it was my grandfather's grandmother, and he just loves that song, and it's not, I mean, it hasn't been done in over 20 years or
But some
something.
music was in my office, and I don't know if you gave it to me or your mother did. And the idea was that I was gonna help you with it, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get you worked up to sing it and perform it. What happened?
Honestly, I have no idea. Because I feel like it was probably a combination of school and then working, and then it just kind of like fluttered away.
I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying you're a bad student. I'm just saying I ran across that music the other day, and I'm like, what? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the original almost age stained sheet of paper that and with music, what is that feeling that you get, or that feeling that you hope to share with people when you are performing or even writing or anything like that? What is it that you feel is the takeaway for yourself and for other people when it comes to music?
That's a long question, long answer coming.
I'm ready for it.
It's all of the above, and music is enormous.
Mhm.
Performing is enormous. Theater is enormous, and again, I'm so privileged to get to work every day in these things. So, music is classical music, which is mostly my background, is something you never get to the end of. You can work on it and work on it and work on it, and you're always trying to determine what did Schubert or Schumann or Beethoven, what did they mean? because you're trying to encode or encrypt or decipher
Right.
or discover what do they want, how do they want it to be. So that is a
Mhm.
process that never ends. So that appeals to my intellect. And so it's so refreshing all the time, because every time you discover something which you think they intended, you're like, oh, well, that's how it was supposed to be. And then
Mhm.
because you're performing with your body, which is your instrument, it changes every day. So
Right.
again, it's always fresh. Um, so music has that draw and that potential. And you've already mentioned the emotional content that it has. But musical theater, which I have a longer, deeper love of, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um, Again, because it's accessible with the language, and there's no barrier with anything like German or Italian or French or something
Mhm.
like that. And I have to give an example, because I was teaching a lesson yesterday to a young guy, Michael Garza, who's very, very talented freshman at Nova. And we had our lesson, and I'm a nerd with singing and singing technique. I love it, and it's just, I can talk about it forever and ever and ever. But when you bridge it with musical theater, and then he's got words that go along with the singing technique, there is an endless amount of possibility. So yesterday he was singing. We had it warm up and did all the vocalizing and all that stuff, and then he sits and he plays "Part of Your World." He said, "Can I do Part of Your World from Little Mermaid?" I'm like, "Oh, no problem. I love that song." So anyhow, so he sits and he starts playing, and he look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? And he's really, really good. And so then we start taking through and like, well, why don't you kind of talk that first part, make it more acty, more theater,
Mhm.
and then go into, and then we start asking, well, what does Ariel, or what do you want when you use these words? And then it becomes, then the life comes into it. And then he starts, and I'm just working with him and coaching him. He gets to choose. That's also the beautiful part. It's so
Yeah.
individualistic. I'm just saying, hey, try this. Hey, try this. And then in a
Right.
performance, it could be anything.
Yeah.
That was a lot of stuff about music, but then it blended into theater, which is just
Mhm.
like, again, I just can't get enough of it. So all of the arts. And then I remember specifically, Baby Z, when I was growing up, and the students would put up their student artwork at our community college at home. And
Mm.
I remember spending hours and hours just walking around, just looking at that art, because I love visual arts so, so much.
Yeah.
So I just can't get enough of the arts. There it is. I said
I know it kind of takes over because Angelica and I, we went to a theater camp. I was in 5th grade, and I didn't think that the arts was what I was going to stick with. I wanted to use theater and then eventually get my psych degree and use it like that. And then by the time I had a meeting with you and Mark was like, just do theater major. And I was like, you know what? You're smart. You're right. I'll just do theater. And I feel like it was the sell of the familial vibe that theater gives, because in other departments, it's not as connected. It's not as personable. And um, even even the first time talking to you was I had invited you guys to come see a show of me in high school.
oh my
And
gosh, oh my
do
gosh, I
you remember that?
remember. And here we are recruiting, and then we were set up for life. Oh my gosh, it's us and the Zadaks forever.
Yes, I
What was the
stuck with you.
show?
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, there are these college professors, and I have to be like really, really cool. And they're like, I need to do really well. And then I had contacted you about the audition for the grant, and you were so helpful throughout the entire process that I was blown away by that. It was that whole, even though you didn't really know who I was, and you might have known Angelica a little bit, but it's like I'm a different person. There was still that welcoming feeling, and it was just so endearing from the first second I stepped foot there.
Well,
And even in the room, you were welcoming, and Mark was welcoming, and it was
oh
just,
shucks. Oh
I
shucks.
know I'm getting mushy, but That's why it's like I talk about you to other people. I'm like, oh yeah, Uncle Bill, you know, and, that's the feeling. That's the feeling that you get when you go into the department. It's just you feel like you can do things, and you feel like you're respected to do those things,
We like
and you're
people.
supported.
I like people, I like, and, it's the relationships that you're talking about,
Yeah,
and that is the core of what it is that we do in the arts.
yeah.
And so we develop relationships. That's a great story and an important story to tell, and affirming for what it is that we do. And
Mhm.
it's, again, back to the struggles that we're having right now. I was at the office today, and our wonderful Elise is no longer with us. Now she's moved on to greater things. But that was always a great help, because she's like, "Hi, sweetie, how are you? What do you need?" Always that kind of. And before her, Lindsay Bartels was also one of us. And
Yeah.
so now Denzel is there. I don't know if you met Denzel, but
I
he's
have. He's really nice.
awesome. And so it's great that not everybody's around. And so
Mhm.
it's funny that you're talking about the office and the space that you come into, and people are welcoming. And it's also good to hear. Every other program is their own thing, but it is good to hear. But we I like also differences in people. I like people to be different. I had my boss at Barry University was named Darren Ford, and she was an ex nun, and she was this great, 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 great mentor for me. And she said, Bill, she said, if people were all the same, we'd have some serious problems. And I'm like, so that's good news. I'm like, yes, we're different and we struggle, and that's okay. The challenges. And so that's where conflicts are born, and we get to tell stories about it.
Yes. Exactly. I actually wanted to delve a little bit further. You were talking about archetypes. So I learned about archetypes from you, and I still use them in my lessons actually, doing journeys and things like that, because they really do help you find out what you're actually capable of when you just like forget the world and let go into the craft. We did archetypes and journeys in your voice and movement class.
Indeed.
What is it about the archetypes that made you really delve into it? Because you were also talking about being in an archetype group.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to give credit to Mark and Jane. Mark Duncan and Jane Duncan worked with Janet Rogers at Virginia Commonwealth University when they were doing their MFAs. And Janet and Frankie Armstrong created a performance training methodology based on archetypes. Now, archetypes, everybody knows, they're like stock characters for everybody all over the entire world. There's a
Right.
mother, there's a father, there's a grandfather, there's a devil, and they're not really characters. And so what it is that we get to do in theater training is we get to kind of step into a devil or a sensual dancer and kind of sense how it feels and how I feel in comparison to them. And then I can borrow from that if I'm creating a character for a role on stage. But the
Mm.
cool thing is, and we're talking about psychology, is what we're talking about here, is that it relates all of us. And so
Mm.
there's a connection to it. So that's another thing that I'm heavily involved in and love, because these people that I work with and voicing and singing with archetypes are the greatest people. They're wonderful people. And we're so interested. We're not interested in making any money. We are
Right.
only interested in training people, young people, introducing them to archetypes, which is introducing them more to themselves,
Mhm.
and how important that is in life and how important that is in theater. You need to know yourself. It's helpful to know yourself, and it's a cool way. So we're starting voice and movement this semester, and so we're trying to figure out how we're doing this online.
Mhm.
And it's we're like, okay. And what's cool is Frankie Armstrong, who is one of the founders and one of the creators of this method. She is, I don't know how old she is. She's an older woman living in Wales, and she's blind. And
Wow.
so she created this methodology by mask. And so she would feel a mask. And we work with mask in
Mm.
theater a
Mm.
lot.
Mm.
And she would feel it, and then she would start to create a character based on whatever the mask felt like. And it's
Wow.
like, and so then Janet adopted that and said, oh, we can learn from that. So we're trying to figure out how we don't have this connection in the room to do this, but
Mm.
because archetypes is all over
Mhm.
universal, it's going to work anyhow. And we're all going to just jump in. And Frankie, again, the oldest person in our group is just like, she's doing this with people in Australia. She's doing this online all over the world because it's like something she believes in, and
Yeah.
it's so cool. It is just so cool. So I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that you're
That's
still using it.
awesome.
I wish we could do more. I would love for Nova to be a center for the study of archetypes in theater training. Maybe one day.
One day, because honestly, it really did help me. I didn't, going into voice and movement, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to learn how to use my body better, and I'm going to learn how to use my voice inflections and learn about my voice better. And then when we jumped into the archetypes and using them with either poetry or bouncing off of each other or whatever it was, I was like, oh my gosh, now I understand how to go about the process if I'm stuck. Like, so now when I get stuck, I tend to go back to those lessons and just think, okay, well, if I was the jester, how would I go about this? If I was a crony, how would I go about this? Are there a mix of personality? What's going on here? And it just becomes so much easier because it is playing, which is also why it was very endearing for me.
Yes.
So it's just, going along with it, and you're just playing through the motions and being guided through this whole other world and going through that story.
That is super, super great to hear. I'm going to have to share that with Janet and Frankie, and I will. We're meeting next Friday, and someone in England has created a death journey. And we're going to do a death journey in our group.
That is so cool.
Because here's the cool thing, nobody owns these. Anybody can create them. And then it's the journey which is the important part. It's to figure out how can you can learn. There's just so many possibilities with it. And so again, I'm very interested in the creation of these journeys as well. I
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
someone created a clown, and it was kind of based on some of the Shakespearean clowns.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched, just it's a miracle to watch people work with these and to create this. And again,
Yeah.
it is so much fun. And my other dear friend Chris from the University of Greensboro, University of North Carolina, she says it's like playing in the yard because it's supposed to be fun and there's no right or wrong about it.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you for asking me about that.
Of course, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about you.
It's
What would you say is an exercise? Because sometimes we talk about favorite exercises here or games, whichever one it is. But to prepare for something or to get pumped for something, what do you think is one of your favorite exercises, whether musical or theatrical, to do before performing?
oh, there are so many.
I know.
So many. One that comes to mind is is to take your text, whatever it is, and then make it kind of nonsensical. So we lose articulation, and we take articulation away, and
Mm-hmm.
making blah 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 blah, and then we can find some different resonance with it, and then we can stop depending on, because again, I say this every day teaching voice. You've been talking for how long now, baby Z? Not today, since you were 2. You've been talking a long time. So the system of using your voice is so hardwired now. And so
Right.
to try to break that is, so we go in a bunch of different ways to try to get you to turn it off so then you can reconstruct.
Yeah.
Because this is another important point. I want you to sound like you. It's important for you. Voice is very personal. So I want you to sound like you. I don't want you to change anything, except when you're playing a character, because you may want to make a choice because you're always in service of the objective and the story.
Right.
So that's why you're trying to figure out where you are so that you can then say, what do I need to change?
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, the rest of that is I'm also an Estel certified trainer. And we have the controllable parts of your anatomy that you can change. Like if I want to lower my legs, I get
Uh-huh.
this different kind of sound. Or one of my favorite ones, if I pick out like this. How, by the way, speaking of this, did you happen to watch Hillbilly Elegy with Glenn Close on Netflix. It's the worst movie.
No,
It is.
no, I haven't watched it yet. It's on my list.
I love Glenn Close so much.
I know.
She is horrible in it, but she is so
But
committed
she's
to that.
so good.
Wonderful. And Amy Adams is no slouch either. I love her too. But so she does this thing with her mouth. Oh, and another person is Gillian Anderson in The Crown, playing
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher, is brilliant.
Yeah.
And she is an American actor playing this very staunch, very important British, prime minister. And it just because she takes it all and she makes it up the character. And she's brilliant with her choices that she makes.
Yeah.
So again, changing the parts. So that went from a neutral kind of thing where you take it all away and then you start building it up and putting it all back together. So
Yeah.
that was just kind of one way. You're preparing me for class tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Hey. Good.
But speaking of just is my favorite exercise. Just
Yeah, that one's a fun one. Jamie also did something like that. She was saying that she loves doing the little mouth flutters, she said.
mouth flutter.
Mouth flutters. So what do you think is something that people should take away from the arts? Anything that you think is needed to be known that someone who's not involved might not really realize?
If I'm going to be very, very current, and I'll be quite serious about this, is that we will be back in a room sharing together. And I mean this, and it's hard right now because we can't be, on campus at Nova, we have to be with masks on, and there's so few people can be in the room, and that's necessary for safety. But we want to be back in the room so badly, watching theaters, seeing arts, watching a dance, hearing music. So if you were asking me what's coming, it's us, the hesitation appropriate, and then saying that we're going to get back in the room together. So that is, I'm trying to encourage everybody. We teach, of course, at Nova, young people, and baby, see, I don't know what they're supposed to think right now, because they can be devastated with what my career, what am I going to do? Or I think about Michael Friedman, and I'm like, his career was just starting, and then everything has stopped, or all of our friends and colleagues who I don't know what they're doing now. If they watch this and they need help, Margaret Ledford's great about that. Please let me know. I will help you in any way that I can, because I'm so grateful to have my job. But we are hardwired to need to be in a space sharing stories together. So this will come back, which leads me to, if I'll segue here, to our musical theater project, which is going up. It'll be a recorded, pre-recorded, necessarily pre-recorded event in February 26th. But we have Carol Fantel, fantastic music director, and her husband Roy, who's doing all the percussion and the editing and all of that stuff. We have Patrick Fitzwater, who's the artistic director of Slow Burn Theater, doing one of our numbers. We're doing Before the Parade Passes By from Hello Dolly. And then the incredible Ron Hutchins, who's an amazing choreographer, is doing Brand New Day with our students. Doing the choreography for that. And so we've assembled these people, and I have to give a shout out to Dr. Bruce Shanti, who's supporting all of this, and Nova supporting us to do this. And it is crazy how we're doing it, because we have rehearsals happening, and I don't know, I'm not there, I'm not in the room. Some of it's on Zoom, some of it's, Dan Gelman has made us these incredible safe sound pods that we have plexiglass for us to be safely in them, and they have to be vented to the outside, and Calypso is helping build all that stuff so that we take the mask off. That's the big thing. So we're going to film this in these pods, and then we're going to stage it on the stages with the singers probably lip syncing, which has already been recorded. The numbers which are choreographed, we're going to film in the flight deck yard outside. They'll have masks on. So this is like, it's so crazy the way, but this is all the way back to you and me, like, I never thought about this before. And it's making my head explode. And I'm having to trust Mia Underhazy, fabulous stage manager, pulling all this together. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And I have great students have been great, and they're so interested in participating and being part of this. So we will be back. They will be back. Theater will be back. It'll be different. It won't be the same way before. And that's the other piece, the accessibility of it, which is so important. We can't lose
Yeah,
the accessibility. So was that an
definitely.
answer to your question?
It's a beautiful answer.
I'm not sure it's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen. Is a play that we're going to do at the end of the year,
Mm,
student directed play. That's going to be outside. I'm pretty sure that's going to be outside. And
yeah.
that's cool. You know, we've always avoided, because we're on the flight pattern for
Mm,
FLL. It's kind of loud outside. But I've heard Mark say this before. Well, they just have to learn to hesitate for a minute and then go on.
mhm.
So we're going to have to learn. Learning is
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's amazing what people have come up with and what people have been doing. And just that they, it's their job and it's their passion, so they kept it going.
Yeah,
And I
and
think
that's another thing. I'm
yeah.
cutting you off because I had to
Mhm.
do some observations this past fall as coordinator. I had to go watch the dance class, the guitar class, all kinds of classes in the arts programs.
Right.
These teachers are the most innovative people you ever saw.
Yeah.
No, no, they didn't flinch. They just switched it up and they did the content. And it
Yeah.
was so cool to see, to sit there and watch them having a ballet class. And I'm like, for one, I'm wonderful that nobody is having a ballet class for
Mm,
our students, for to have the opportunity to participate in that. But then I'm like, it was just so fluid like ballet. I could have stayed there all day and just listened to the music and watched them do their pirouettes and all that stuff. It was
uh-huh.
so cool. But you're right. We are the innovators. We are the
Yes.
original innovators, if you ask me. And so, yes,
Yes. I
we are
mean,
helping.
look, people in the arts honestly are problem solvers because you use what you got to get the message across, whether it's music, actual visual art, or theater, or whatever it is that you do. You take what you get, and you
So
use
true.
it to the best of its ability.
So true.
And I think that's what's so amazing about everyone who is involved in the arts, or people who have a past in the arts at least, is that you can see it. You can see that they're okay, well, that didn't work out. Well, we'll fix it. Let's not get stuck. Let's
Yeah,
let's just keep going.
that's another really important part too, is that because I hate to say there are no stakes because people are very invested in the arts, but if you fail in the arts, you learn. And then
Hmm.
you take that with you, and well, there really is no failure, is the point. So, you
Right.
everything is part of who you are and it helps you grow. So the legacy is what we give,
Yeah.
and the way we take something. And I've always said this to Alana Lancia, our dance instructor, when I watch the dance concerts. They start from nothing. They have nothing and they create these beautiful shows. And I'm like, that's just so creative, so amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's awesome. Yeah, Alana's amazing too. Just like creating all of her pieces are blow my mind. Because I was like, I didn't know a body could do that.
Well, no, it is amazing, and what a great opportunity also for our students. Because I say to every single one in any performance field, take dance, take
Hmm.
theater, take
Yeah.
music, study them all while you're here. Because when you get out, it's a whole lot more complicated.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I do have a fun question for you. If I saw you walking across the street
Hmm.
and I didn't know who you were,
Hmm.
what is something that a person can't tell just by looking at you? Maybe like I don't know, maybe you're a superhero. Who knows?
Oh, I came up with my super skill the other day, but it was so boring. It was like it was coordinating is my skill.
That's awesome. No, that's good.
And it's true. It is true. It is true. I have a
True.
very, very dear friend, and she runs the Pompano Beach Performing Arts Center, uh,
Uh-huh.
and she is Adrienne Clark,
Mhm.
and we were having a conversation about collaboration because you and I are talking about a lot about collaboration, and what we do is work together with people, and that's so important about what we do. But she told me that she said, because I was like, I'm not the person who can monetize anything.
Mm.
I'm really not the front person necessarily, but she said everyone is part of the team. and
Right.
everyone brings a different element to it. And yes, and that was my thing, coordinating.
Coordinating is a really good skill because, some people in the theater are very butterfly, they're very squirrel. It just happens.
Well, it's
So,
funny. And so when I got the wonderful opportunity, thank you to your mom for working with the Florida Breast Cancer Association,
mhm,
that project, again, that was my role as coordinator. I did more of that, but then the chance to get to work with Elena Garcia and Gail Garrison and your mom and all those people, and that was such a great situation. We learned so much.
yeah, definitely. Is there any I know you actually mentioned a couple projects that are going on with NSU, which I will link anything involving NSU down below in the description for anyone who wants to click on it. But is there anything else that you feel should be promoted, whether it's just for yourself or if G has anything going on, anything at all?
Well, I'll say broadly. I think I mentioned the musical theater project on the
Mm-hmm.
26th, and then of course we have two art exhibits. Our website is in flux right now.
Mm,
It's getting to look a lot better, but right now all the information is, oh, where is anything on it? So we'll make sure that you have that as we go along through that. I'm sure Calypso's very involved in the website, which is a good thing.
yes.
Um, the curriculum is changing some, which is a positive thing. So that is something to look at. Um, um, I'm trying to figure out how that makes sense for anybody. It's exciting because it's streamlined. We've added a couple of classes, taken a few things out, and made it a more current, in particular, the theater program. So that's really kind of exciting. That'll start in the fall. Um, and when we hope we get back to something which is a little bit more normalish.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on Talk About It Tuesday today. Again, anything involving the projects that Bill has talked about will be linked down below, so you can very easily just click those and go visit the school that I graduated from and be a nice person and watch all their shows because they're working really hard.
And right
Uh,
now you can see everything from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, you could stay in your PJs. I know when we watched the show not too long ago, you guys did another show, and Joke and I ordered pizza. We were sitting on the couch. We mirrored it to the TV. It was awesome.
Yeah,
So,
Eleanor Rigby and I were there the whole time. Just
yes, exactly. Oh, Eleanor, what a beautiful princess. But thank you so much for joining me today. I want to remind everyone on here to please check the description down below. Also, for some organizations and websites to educate yourselves during this time about the world around you. Also, remember that This is Improv is teaching classes. So we have improv for life, basic improvisation, writing, and corporate team building. So you can go to www.thisisimprov.com and sign up today for a class. We also have a podcast called This Is Legends of Yesterday, where we talk about histories, mysteries, and ghost stories of Florida. So if you have an experience that you have seen, witnessed, heard about in the mysteriousness that is Florida, you can email us at info@thisisimprov.com and send in your story. Again, thank you, you beautiful creatures, for joining us today on this episode of Talk About It Tuesday. Big thank you again to Bill for joining us, the lovely Bill. And have an amazing rest of your Tuesday. And don't forget to eat some tacos. Okay? Bye.
thank you. Bye.